Hey guys, and Professor Bloom, here's my kind of remake video of the components that we did for the outlines with the HTML. Firstly, Professor, thank you for helping me with this, and hopefully some of these corrections I made are a little more semantically in line. Um, okay, to go over this header here, let me pull up the code. Changed a couple things up a bit from initially what I had. I wasn't doing some things right, so I got my header component here. Decided to make this whole thing here an image, and up here the join flow pro and the login that would be an unordered list, and of course these would be hyperlinks, which is why I have these drawn out here in that regard. And I did a form here for this search box here, and of course put search, so in this case search would probably pop up in here or on the tag or on the hover state for that link. And then opened up a nav inside the header, this section here, an unordered list with home, videos, meets, swimmers, contacts all listed up and drawn up here, and close out the unordered list, close out the nav, and close out the header. Okay, that's component 1. Component 2, the call to action. As you see here, have the taxi, call is 24 hours, 800, and then got this form, this background photo. Okay, let me go up here, and where did I start? Okay, did this as a section, since this is a section of the website, and initially starting out with this image here. Should be making it a background image. Forgive my ignorance on that right now. I need to relook that up. I'll get that corrected as soon as I possibly can after making the video. I took an image that was very similar to this one that you see here with this lady here, and what it was trying to communicate to use as the image, since I couldn't necessarily pull out this image or didn't have time to Photoshop it enough to just pull out the background image itself. And then up here, initially I did this as a header, or not a header, a heading, an H1 taxi, but then Professor had talked with me a bit about how was I going to get these 3 little squares in here. So for what it was, I took a screenshot of this whole thing and made that an image called taxi PNG, which you'll see when it pops up in the component. Okay. Then I did an H1 here, and then an H2 for the 800 number. Now, why H1, H2? My reasoning behind that was because this came first, this came second, and that I think you could style the font size in CSS versus having to say, okay, this is an H2 before an H1, because I don't think that would semantically make sense. So I could be wrong on that. Please correct me if I am. Further up or down, have this form here in this box. We've got the full name, email, phone, and what am I looking at here? Okay, then I put this form style here, get 20% discount now, which you see here in this button in this respect of where it would take you. What I'm probably going to add right now that I think I forgot to do is this get better results and save 20% text. So I will, let me see how am I going to do that. If it's in the form, I believe, don't know, I mean, I guess I could just put a paragraph and tie it in somehow with CSS. I'm not sure on that, but I did forget that portion, so let me put that, save that. Okay, and that should be there in that regard. After I got down here and opened up this form and this button here, then I closed out the section. The only other question I have is maybe whether this should be a link styled as a button, or whether I can still get moving forward. So I guess, like he said, is it taking me somewhere or is it doing something? I believe, well, get 20% discount now. This will take you to somewhere else. So in that regard, I will see if I can. I'll change that to a link. Get 20% now. Link and then put the text in. Get 20% of this now, and get rid of this other portion. Oh. Just get rid of this portion here. Close that off. Okay, and I'll comment this out. Professor can at least see what I tried to do initially, if I'm correct or not on that. Okay, my apologies in that regard. Let me just save that. Okay, and I close off the section. Okay, component 3 is this feature section down here. Now I said section, however I chose nav because it's also navigational. It takes you somewhere else on the page. It's related to these heading links here. Okay, so these are all technically an unordered list. I talked with Professor initially about the images and putting that in through HTML, but I think from what we discussed, it could probably be done more through CSS, and that it wasn't necessarily communicating exactly what was related to the text here. Like it was maybe generally talking about it, but not specifically contextually parallel, if that's the right thing to say. So I stuck with the H2s here for these titles, and a paragraph with lorem ipsum for these paragraphs here, and I just copied and pasted 8 different times, since there's 8 of these parts here. Closed it off each one, closed off the nav, and that's how that component ended there. Okay, component 4, the About Us section. As you can see, it starts out here, and then we have the pictures, and then we have the text. In this About Us portion, I created it as an article. Now, why did I choose an article? Because if I pull this back up on here, news article, web blog, or forum post, comment, you know, it was informative. And in a feed reader, I think it could still make sense being read out. You know, About Us, lorem ipsum, picture, you know, DeWalt, picture Makita, picture Black & Decker, and then read the text through. So that's why I chose article. I chose the H1 up here as for the About Us, and then I chose for this section from the picture downward to be a figure. And why did I choose it to be a figure? Really because one or more images, graphics, code samples, etc., and could it be moved to an appendix? I think it could if you were to do that contextually. So that's why I have the image here, the H2 for the lorem ipsum, and the paragraph for the explicabo redundante vitae, however that's pronounced. Okay, did that 3 times for each figure within the article and closed it off. Okay. Component 5, the blog. We have 4 columns and 4 rows here, so 16 total entries on this blog section. So if I scroll up to where I started, again, I chose this as an article for how its information was presented. What's hot on Flow Swimming, did that as an H1. Then I created a section here where I initially put an image. This is probably a video hyperlinked, but image slash hyperlinked to the video. But we got the image here, paragraph for the lorem ipsum for the title, and then I would close off that section in that regard. I called it lorem ipsum, but they've got the sprinting coast marking. It's different text per listing here. Of course, I did that 16 times. How to necessarily get the 4 columns and 4 rows without doing a table. A little rusty on how to do that. I'll have to look further into how to do that when it comes to styling it with the CSS. Okay, and then I close the article off there. Component 6. Contact us form. Kind of very simple in how it's designed and set up visually. So here I set up it as an aside. Now, why an aside? Sidebar, comments, section, pull quote. Really, because comments section, and in terms of how it's tangentially related to the material. In this body, you can put whatever you want, and it could be related to the material, could not be related to the material. So that's why I chose an aside. So, and then I went with H1 for the contact us up here, created a form for the name, email, subject, and body, and the type of text and all that stuff. Whether I did that correct, I'm not sure. And then down here I did a submit button. Whether that should be a link or not, I think I'm going to go with button because it's supposed to do something. It's supposed to not just take me somewhere to a completed form. It's supposed to submit the message. It's supposed to do something. So that's why I put submit there for the button. And then I close off the aside. Component 7. Login form. Start off at the top. Again, I did this as an aside. Why? Again, sidebar, comments, pull quote, advertising. This is more somewhat advertising in order to get you to log into their site. I mean, tentatively, the way this site that I came to was designed that you could look at it either way, whether you were a member or not. You just had more benefits if you were logged in as a member. So that's why I kind of viewed it a bit as advertising and chose aside. If I'm correct or not, please let me know. The paragraph, login, and then I put the link here for the sign up. Did a form style with the button here with the X for closing it out, and that can be styled with CSS. The H2, use your Flow Swimming account to log in. Created the form with the username, email address, or the password, and did the link here for the forgot password. Please remember me next time. I don't exactly remember how to do that checkbox, so if any of you guys can help me out a bit with that, I'd really appreciate it. Form style, display inline. Sorry, got a button here. Login does something, helps you log in after you finish, and then I close off the aside. Okay. Component 8. Got the footer. I set this up more as a nav because this footer hole here, this would take you to the home page, and this all would be navigational sections of the page that would take you to different spots and areas throughout the website. Okay, so you got the component, the navs, the paragraph. I put bike store, how that can be formatted later in CSS. I think I know, but we'll find out later. We've got this paragraph here for the lorem ipsum. Now down here, I commented it out because initially I put image sources for Facebook, Twitter, and RSS and made them into links or whatnot. But then after looking at that one video of what could be better communicated, I think just the paragraph of Facebook, Twitter, RSS could be better communicated, and then we could style that text into the buttons, hyperlinked, later on. So go over here, we have our links, to home, about, portfolio, store, etc., all the way through to help. So I got that all set up there. And then have down here this little small paragraph for Bike Store is proudly powered by WordPress, etc. And then here I have a contact link. I did it as a link. Again, initially I did it as a button. I'm a little confused as whether it should be a link still or a button or not. That's why I commented this out initially, how I had that here, and why I'm tentatively going with the link. So again, if any of you guys can help me out with that in that regard, of that decision, be greatly appreciated. Close it out with the nav, and then I'm done with that. All right, 2 more. Component 9, this pop-up. It's advertising, so that's why I set it up as an aside. Paragraph non-alcoholic, paragraph drinks on the online store. I did that as paragraphs and not headings because I think, again, that can be, the fonts and stuff can be controlled and done in CSS. Got this image here of the water flowing through that I did a screenshot of. I did the form style, display button up here for the X to close it out. This is subscribe to our newsletter. I did that as an H2. Paragraph for the sign up for our exclusive email list. I did a form for the email capture here. And then I did a link for the subscribe because it's taking me somewhere, doing something. Again, I'm still on the fence a bit of whether it should be a link or a button. If you guys can help me out, that'd be greatly appreciated. And then I close the aside. And that's how that's finished. And the toughest component, component 10, is this news article down here. As you see, starts out with the video, Ryan Lochte smiling, looking all tired and stuff. And then got some headings and some text and all this other stuff that's going on. So how I drew that out was, again, did it as an article, did the video here with the links and have that set up, so got the video set up, closed out the video, got a link for following Ryan Lochte, which is right here. Initially I did, again, a button, but I think a link was more appropriate for that, so I commented out the button. The CHA exclusive Ryan Lochte Olympic, that's all H1. Did a paragraph down here by Chris Chavez at FlowTrack and did the links within that, as you see respectively here, highlighted in blue. And then did a Twitter link. Initially I did a button there as well, that's why I commented that out. But then I did a button for the email and the embed because it was not just going somewhere, but it was doing something. It was giving me access to an email client and giving me code. So that's why I stuck with buttons. Whether I should have stayed unilateral on that across the board, I'm not sure, but that's why I chose that. Close the article off, open up down here. In this section here, I did an aside. Whether that should be wrapped in the article or not, I don't know. But, I mean, it looks separate with the way this has got its border and everything, so I did a separate aside. Ryan Lochte chats with Christopher Chavez and inclusive. Okay, and then got the text, got the tags and the links here. Close that off, and then I did a nav down here for the login with the Flow Swimming because it takes you back to Flow Swimming and helps you log in. Again, whether that was the proper usage or not, navigational wise, I'm not quite sure, but that's initially what I was thinking. And then I close off the nav. I think I'm forgetting something. What am I forgetting? Article, video, close off the article. No, I guess I'm not. Okay, for now, at least. Okay, well, that's as far as I got into setting that up. Professor, I do thank you for your initial help and any comments you have on this video. And after I get everything set up later today, I really do appreciate your time and mentorship again. And thank you, classmates, for yours as well. Have a blessed one. I'll talk with you soon.